Okay, so I finished 50 Shades Darker, which was an infinitely better book than 50 Shades of Grey because the writing was way better, but the plot isn't. Like, nothing interesting happens in this book. Christian and Anna are still super uninteresting. I still don't know why they love each other, because they could both do better, but they deserve each other because they both suck. Let's see. Okay, so one of Christian's ex-girlfriends, or like not girlfriend, but like former sub, she goes nuts and like breaks into his house, and then he's all like super protective of Anna, and he's like, oh, my ex-girlfriend Lila, I think she got a gun permit, so she might have a gun, and so he's freaking out about that, and he's like, no, you can't go to work, and she's like, I have to go to work, and he's like, no, you don't, and she's like, yes, I do, and he's like, no, you don't, she's like, I have to have a job, and he's like, no, you don't. Yeah, no, he just doesn't think that she needs to work. So that's super cool. That's super, like, modern and not at all crazy. Jesus. Don Draper didn't like it when Betty worked either. But Mad Men takes place in the 1960s. So at least Don had an excuse. Also, they were already married. Don and Betty Draper have been together for like 10 years. These people known each other at the end of this book for 2.5 months. So, okay, let's see what happened. So, his ex-girlfriend bought a gun, like, broke into Anna's house and was waiting for her, and then she had the gun, and she was like, I've got a gun, and Anna was like, ah, and then she was basically like, what do you have that I don't? And Anna was like, like, I don't know what you say to this. She reacted, I think, like the way that most people would, and that she was like, do you want some tea? I don't know, sorry, dude. And then Christian came in and was like, knock it off, man. And then she, like, went into submissive position, dropped the gun on the floor, and then she was, like, all in submissive stance, and then Anna was like, oh, man, that's crazy. And then Christian was like, you need to leave, Anna, and then he hung out with Lila or whatever, and gave her a bath, and then called his shrink and had his shrink ship her off to elsewhere. And it was just like, it just didn't matter. Like, that didn't matter at all in the book. It made it so that Christian was more controlling and like worried about Anna, but he's always worried about her for no reason. Except for, okay, so I feel bad about how shitty I was about how Christian didn't trust Anna's boss, Jack Hyde, because Jack Hyde was being all creepy and weird, and he was like, we're going to go to New York City, and we're going to go to a literary convention or something. And Christian was like, oh, you're not fucking going. And Anna was like, oh, I'm going. And then he ended up contacting the company and being like, every single expense has to be seen through head management. And then Jack was super pissed, so Jack got to go, but Anna didn't. And then Anna was super pissed at Christian, and he was like, I don't trust that guy. Like, I know shit about that guy. You can't trust that guy. And then, like, later, Jack was being all creepy and weird, and he's like, Anna, you have to stay late tonight. And then he corners her in the break room, and he's like, you've been performing terribly. And she's like, that's not true. And he was like, to make it up to me, you're gonna have to show me some favors and do sexy stuff. And he like touches her cheek or whatever, and so she like touches his hand and breaks one of his fingers, which is the coolest thing she does so far. I've read 1,000 pages, over 1,000 pages of these books, and the coolest thing she does is break her boss's finger. And then she goes to leave, and Christian's like, why are you upset? Goes inside, and he's like, you're a jerk. And he's like, you're a big, stupid, dumb jerk. And he fires Jack. And then, a Christian is taking a helicopter somewhere for some reason, and both his engines blow out, and they don't know where he is, and they think he's dead, but he ended up being able to land the helicopter. And you're like, OMG, you guys. But he's okay. And he asked Anna to marry him, and she was like, okay. 6 weeks they've known each other. And he's like, I'm going to get married in a month. And she's like, okay, cool, whatever. And then the very last scene of the book is they're at his birthday party. They've just told everybody in his family that they're getting married. And then after that, Jack Hyde is hanging out, sitting in his car, smoking cigarettes. So you know he's a bad guy because he smokes Marlboro Reds like a cowboy. Because he's a cowboy. I don't really know. And he's like sitting there being like, I can't even believe Christian's still alive, even though I sabotaged his helicopter. What guy who works in publishing is like, I totally know how to sabotage a helicopter. Who hasn't sabotaged a helicopter? I have the wherewithal and the know-how to do that. Yeah, right. It's so dumb. And then, yeah, so like the last page of the book is him just being like, I'm gonna get them. And it basically makes him sound like a Scooby-Doo villain. Because it's so dumb. Okay. Anyway, so then the new book starts. They're on their honeymoon. They got married. She did not say love, honor, and obey. And Christian got really mad about it. That's like a thing or whatever. And so they got married and they left their wedding and they're going to get on this aeroplane. His private airplane, by the way. And so they're hanging out on the airplane. They just got on it. Okay. All preparations complete? Christian asks them both, the pilots. As I glance around the cabin, the interior is all pale maple and pale cream leather. It's lovely. Another young woman in uniform stands at the other end of the cabin. A very pretty brunette. She doesn't like brunettes because Christian only fucks brunettes. So she's wary of them. We have the all clear. Weather is good from here to Boston. Boston? Turbulence? Not before Boston. There's a weather front over Shannon that might give us a rough ride. Shannon? Ireland? I see. Well, I hope to sleep through it all, says Christian matter-of-factly. Sleep? We'll get underway, sir, Stephen says. Oh, it's Stefan. We'll leave you. Oh, and one of the pilots is named Bailey, but it's spelled B-E-I-G-H-L-E-Y. I don't know why, but that really bothers me. It's one of very few names that I think should be spelled closer to the alcohol. Okay, we'll get underway, sir. We'll leave you in the capable hands of Natalia, your flight attendant. Christian glances in her direction and frowns, but turns to Stefan with a smile. Excellent, he says. Taking my hand, he leads me to one of the sumptuous leather seats. There must be about 12 of them in total. Sit, he says as he removes his jacket and undoes his fine silver brocade vest. We sit in two single seats facing each other with a small, highly polished table between us. Welcome aboard, sir, ma'am, and congratulations, Natalia is at our side, offering us each a glass of pink champagne. Pink champagne? I didn't know that was a thing. Is that extra celebratory? Does that mean that... Is champagne pink? Does it usually... Is it pink? Am I colorblind? Is champagne usually pink? That seems pretty lame to me. If somebody handed me a glass of pink champagne, I'd be like, cool, I'm at like a dog's birthday party thrown by a 6-year-old. Here's to a happy married life, Anastasia. Christian raises his glass to mine and we clink. Oh, and another thing is that they keep calling each other Mr. and Mrs. Gray. She's like, I love you, Mr. Gray. And he's like, you look lovely in that swimsuit, Mrs. Gray. So gross. Also, don't change your name. Bullen? Okay. Here's to a happy married life, Anastasia. Christian raises his glass to mine and we drink. The champagne is delicious. Bollinger, I ask? The same. The first time I drank it was out of teacups, I grin. I remember that day well. Your graduation. Where are we going? I'm unable to contain my curiosity any longer. Shannon, Christian says, his eyes alight with excitement. He looks like a small boy. Wolf. Sometimes she talks about how he looks like a boy a lot, and it kind of freaks me out. like, she's always like, he looks so young. He looks like a young boy. And I'm like, ugh, you're a pedo. And he is the one who's supposed to be the sexual deviant, but you're the one who's kind of a pedo. Yeah, I don't want to read any more of this. But basically, nothing happens in these books. Like, this book, I don't think anything that happened with his ex-girlfriend and the gun is coming back. But that was, like, the crux of the book. Also, they got married, but that was, like, who cares? All I thought about with them getting married is that you could just waited. Like, if you want to get married, you can just wait a year. He was like, no, we have to be married, which kind of freaks me out, because it's basically like, you're going to leave me, so you have to marry me. It's like, divorce is difficult to get, but when you beat the shit out of your wife, sometimes it's worth it. Just saying.